The mass protests in Iran are showing no signs of ending as they continue to draw the attention of world leaders. At least 21 people have been killed and 450 arrested as unrest spreads to cities across the Islamic Republic. President Trump called the Iranian leadership brutal and corrupt and warned that the U.S. is watching the unrest closely. Elizabeth Palmer reports.
In some of the worst violence so far, protesters attacked a police station last night about 200 miles south of Tehran. There's no way to know who was shooting, but state media say 6 people died. Activist videos from the last 6 days show wounded demonstrators. Protesters in the capital chanting "Death to the dictator." And jeering crowds vandalizing pictures of Iran's supreme religious leader, Ali Khamenei. He broke his silence today to put the blame on, as he put it, enemies of the Islamic Republic who have used money, weapons and intelligence services to create problems. That hints at foreign interference. But Iran's moderate president, Hassan Rouhani, said today that the protesters are just fed up with poverty and lack of freedom. That's exactly what you hear on the street. My 3 kids are doctors and engineers, says this father, and not one of them has a job. Even though my husband and I both work, says this woman, we're under constant pressure from high prices. Life is tough. This is the most serious uprising in Iran since the massive election protests in 2009 that were so brutally put down. Back then, the discontent was focused in Tehran. This time, it's countrywide.
CBS News foreign correspondent Elizabeth Palmer joins us now. So, Liz, the protests in 2009 started off with the goal of disputing that year's presidential election. What do protesters want this time around?
Well, the very first protest was pretty clear. It was about food prices, about economic hardship. But the movement has grown rapidly and mushroomed into a whole series of mini protests, if you like, that have affected as many as 70 cities in Iran. And the range of demands is huge. It's morphed into a demand for food subsidies, a demand that the government stop spending money on foreign wars. It's a demand for clerical rule, a demand for more freedom of expression. So it's very difficult, even if the authorities were to want to try and address these demands, there's just an overwhelming number.
And Liz, is there any way at all to tell how this could end?
There really isn't. You know, part of the problem is that information is trickling out very slowly. So the videos we're seeing now are from a day ago. We're not quite sure what was happening today out in the countryside. We'll know by the morning. So we don't really know if this is fizzling out in the face of threats of a really brutal crackdown and by now hundreds of arrests, or whether that's just thrown fuel on the flames. And in fact, this thing is going to spread and grow more radical.
Well, as you reported, President Rouhani and Supreme Leader Khamenei offered different responses to the unrest. Why?
President Rouhani is a reformer. He ran on a platform of opening up Iran, of giving especially the young people some freedoms, of reforming the economy. So that is his political platform, and he's sticking to it. He's probably hoping that the protesters will back him and say, yeah, that's what we want, and he will be able to force the hardliners to come over to his side. It's a gamble. We don't know if it's going to work out, and it could be a dangerous gamble. The Supreme Leader on the other side is a hardliner. The default position with the older revolutionaries is their government is just fine. Anything that goes wrong is somebody else's fault, other countries' fault. There's a whole paranoia associated with other powers interfering in Iran. But his real decision, whether or not to crack down, we don't know yet. He's playing his cards close to his chest. I expect that we'll see, if they need to crack down, we'll see that come in the next 24 hours.
All right, Elizabeth Palmer. Liz, thanks very much.